Hello guys, and welcome back to another Tutorial Tuesday here on TGODtutorials. I'm showing you guys how to improve your work here on YouTube and increase your productivity here. So anyways, today we're going to continue our epic saga of creating a website from scratch using HTML and CSS. In the previous episode, we went ahead and we made our game plan on paper and we laid everything out just how we want it, and now we're going to actually turn our fiction, our dreams, into actual code, actual website, actual stuff going on here today. Hopefully you guys are excited. I'm pumped, and let's make you a website. Alright, so in the last sort of installment, between when I showed you guys how to write out your plan and sketch up how you want your website to look, I actually made a little intermediate tutorial on how to install software to enable you to be able to code a lot more easy. And you know, we're using Sublime text for this. So as you can see right here, we have Sublime text open up in one side of our screen, and we have our web browser opened up on the right side of our screen. So I basically opened up a document that I've created here in Sublime text. I've just I did new file, and then I saved it as. So I went here to save as, and I basically saved it into its own little folder as we went over in our previous how to set up this sort of software tutorial. I made my own little folder for this entire web project, and I saved it as index.html inside of that folder. So as long as you have a dedicated folder and you're saving these files all in one place, then you should be good to rumble. Make sure you have an index.html saved in there just by going to the save as and then titling it index and then selecting HTML from the dropdown. Save it and you'll have your index.html, and then go ahead and open up a new file and name this one main.css when you do the save as. And now we got kind of two documents all set up for our needs here in Sublime text, which is our HTML and CSS code editor. I'm going to switch over here to HTML and we'll start doing stuff with that in a second. Over here to the right, I have that file we just saved, the index.html, opened up. I pretty much just found that file in my browser, or I found my file in my Explorer window, and I dragged the HTML file into my browser, which is Google Chrome, and that pretty much just opened it, and we're ready to work. I'm going to be using live reload as demonstrated in our how to set up our software tutorial, which was previous to this. So if you have not watched that, please go check it out. It'll clear up a whole bunch of things. And now we're pretty much ready to code. So I've scanned in my game plan. This is optional for you guys. You can just have it on your desk right next to you. But since I'm going to be showing you guys as we're going here, I pretty much opened up an image file that I scanned in of my document. So we're going to use this as reference as we move through the HTML. Today we're going to be doing solely HTML, and in the next episode I'll be showing you guys a little bit of the CSS, which is of course how things look. HTML is the content, CSS is how things look. I went over all this in the previous tutorials, so if you're a little bit lost, make sure you go watch the previous two. So yeah, that is our markup, and we're going to start to code that. So I'm going to have this open, and I'm going to be kind of teaching you guys like the baseline stuff, and then I'm going to just kind of move through it, and hopefully you guys can learn from what I'm doing here. So I'll do my best to explain as we go along, but it's a lot of kind of per situation kind of circumstance. So I will go over everything, but expect to not be able to get everything from this tutorial, and I do like encourage you guys to go out and go to w3schools.com and look up resources there. All of my resources I will link in the description so you guys can take a look. But anyways, I'm going to start out by doing HTML. That's like a janky way to do it with Emmet. If I just do HTML and press tab, it does the regular Sublime text fill-in. So that's just a janky way to do it. I know a lot of people were commenting on my previous tutorial, like I'm not getting the full HTML framework when I'm doing HTML and then pressing tab. If you just do two open carets like that, and then HTML, it'll do it. It's a little bit of an interesting way, and I don't know why it works like that, but it just does. And then you can get rid of the extra beginning side caret once you have typed it in. Anyways, we have our HTML framework all set up, and we're going to go ahead and give our document a title. So I'm going to title our document, well, since it's me for the website I'm going to be actually making for my YouTube channels, I'm going to name this TGODNetwork, and I'm going to hit save there, and you'll see it updates here. We have the title right there. That's courtesy of live reload. Every time I save in Sublime, it'll update my browser automatically. And I'm going to actually, yeah, okay, we should be good. And we have our body here, right? So with my body, basically I want to start filling in the content here. Now, actually before that, let's link our CSS file. So I'm going to do link and press tab, and our href will be main.css. That'll basically point us to the CSS document so that it's linked. So any sort of styling I do in here, any sort of style I do, any sort of styling that I do in this document, it will apply to our HTML document because it is linked and it is referenced. So any CSS we put in here will carry over. So you want to make sure that you link it, and then we can start putting stuff in our body, which will be the content of our website. Now, going over here to my plan, our first kind of object of interest is this kind of top header bar right here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a div, right? And we're going to be using Emmet shortcode for this. So if you don't have Emmet installed, the previous tutorial went over how to do that. But I'm going to do a div with the class of header container. I cannot type today. All right, well, we should be okay. And inside of that div, I'm going to put a series of things that are going to be grouped together. So I'm going to put them in parentheses. I'm going to put a logo. I'm going to have to declare what it is. So a div with the class of logo container, and inside of that div named or that div that has the class of logo container, I'm going to put in a header h1 with the class of logo, and then to the side of that I'm going to put, so to the side of that, or on the same hierarchy level, I'm going to put a nav bar. So I'm going to put a div.navbar. Now, make note that I'm sort of wrapping all of my elements. I'm not just putting button, 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 button. I'm wrapping them in divs so that I can manipulate them further if need be. So I can position them as a unit. If I just put a whole bunch of buttons side by side, so if I just did button, 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 button right here, then they would all be independent and I wouldn't be able to control them as one unit. If I wrap them first in a div, and then I do button, 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 I can move that container or that wrapper, and I can move that around, and I can move all those buttons as a unit. So I can also apply attributes to them because they're grouped together. So that's why I'm doing a div navbar. And then inside of that div navbar, I'm going to put my elements, which are some buttons. So I have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 buttons, and I'll do right here. I'm going to make those A elements because they will be links. Those will be anchors. A dot social media button. All right, a.social media button. That's an anchor that has the class of social media button, and I'm going to make how many? You say 5 of those. I'm gonna make 5 of those, and that will take care of everything. If I press tab, it should fill in all the HTML for us. If that shortcode is confusing, you can just stick to regular HTML. I just find it so much easier to use Emmet once you actually learn how to use it. It is so incredibly powerful. If you are lost on any of this Emmet shortcode, I do highly suggest you go to the Emmet documentation at emmet.io, I believe it is, and you can kind of just look over, yeah, it should be here. You can look over all of the documentation as linked here, and it's really intuitive, really simple. It just does take a moment or two to really understand. So if you don't understand it, don't worry, just go ahead and check out that website and you'll be able to kind of understand Emmet and how it'll help you code HTML a little bit faster. But anyways, as you can see, when we press tab, it did fill in a div with the class header container. So that is going to be everything right here. That is our heading container right there. And then inside of that heading container, we have a logo container, which will contain our logo. That's going to be right here. So that will be inside of the big one. Inside of this one, we have our logo container, which will contain just the logo. And then inside of that logo container, we'll actually have the logo itself. So this logo is wrapped in the logo container and then in the main header container. So double wrapped for double ease later when we style things. So we're done with that. We have our class, or we have our header 1 with the class logo, and we'll fill that in right now. We'll do TGODtutorials, and that will give us our text, and we can actually see this update right now. Actually, I don't believe I have my live reload linked. Let's go ahead and link our live reload. Actually, I think my live reload stopped responding. So let's go ahead and link our live reload just again. Grab that script code and we'll put it right between our head and our body right there, and we'll save. And now when we press enter, okay, now we should not have to click reload anymore. Anyways, moral of the story, when I put this in as our H1, it does show up, and that is something that will immediately show up. So we will be getting a whole bunch of content here today, but it will not look like our website until we dive into the CSS in the next episode. So anyways, continuing on, our nav bar, which is right here, this is what our nav bar will be. And really I should just name this to nav bar container, because it's containing, well, actually the nav bar itself does imply that it's containing other things, so I'm just gonna leave it at nav bar for now. And the nav bar right here, which is contained within the bigger header container, the nav bar right here, that will have 5 social media buttons in there. So this is a social media button, this is a social media button. Those are all anchors, but they all have the class of social media button, so I'll be able to style them and have all of the changes I apply to a certain style apply to all these buttons at once, so it makes a CSS styling a little bit easier. I'm also going to want to put in separate classes for these, so I'm going to have it be a social media button class, but I also want the first one to be an email class, email button class, and then I want this one to also be a Google Plus button, because of the second one. Third one is going to be a Facebook button. Fourth one is, of course, our Twitter button. And our fifth one is naturally our YouTube. Oh, I'm going to stick with the same capitalization. Button. Alright, and then that way we have our social media button class, which will make a square rectangle. That's the style I will appropriate to the SM button. I'll make them all squares using that, and then I will individualize them with the separate class right here. So I'll make the email button class, make whatever it's applied to look like an email, and then Google Plus, I'll put probably a Google Plus icon with it, but the social media button will just be all the general stuff, like the similarities between these, like the squares and whatnot. So that is all that, and of course we close all of our beginning tags with appropriate ending tags with the slash divs, like so. And that is pretty much that done in all one foul swoop. As you can see, we did one line of Emmet code, and it made all of that for us. We just gotta really understand Emmet, and we pretty much just prosper. It's kind of insane. So right underneath of our header, we actually have a video, and using HTML5, we actually have a native video tag, and I'll get into that a little bit later in the next tutorial, but I do just want to kind of put that there. I won't delve into the video tag quite yet, especially because I don't really have a video to put in there as of yet, but it works pretty much just like an image tag. You can do src and video, whatnot. And it is native, which is very nice. It's a very nice feature of HTML5 that was not previously possible. So moving on, below that we actually have our sort of it's not a navigation bar, or it's more of just a, I guess it would be another nav. We're kind of running into conflict because I called this a nav bar. Let's call this a social media bar. Alright, social media bar. That'll make things a little bit easier. And this might pop up, but Sublime Text is free, so you can just click cancel and continue using the free version. So SM bar, I'm going to name that. And this next one right here, which is the home, gaming, tutorials, vlogs, designs, frequently asked questions, those sort of selections will be my that'll be my true nav bar where I have all my navigation. You can hop between pages and stuff. So I will start off by doing a div, and of course we got to contain all these, right? They're similar elements. I got to contain all of them. So I'll do nav bar container, right? And inside of that nav bar container, I'm going to put a series of elements that I want to group together, and those elements will be here, let's make it easier on ourselves. Let's do a div, or actually we'll make them all anchors because they will be clickable, and we do want those to be clickable. Anchors with the class of let's make them, I guess, nav buttons. Nav button, because it's singular. Each one will be a nav button. We won't have one button that's a nav buttons. Each one is a nav button, and we will times that by however many we have. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And we'll times that by 6. And then is there anything else I want to include here? Oh, what we can also do, right, is have an attribute by doing 2 square brackets like that, and you can apply attributes to these. So if I wanted, I could do the width of them in the side of this bracket. Not generally recommended in HTML. You could do all that in CSS, but for the sake of demonstrating this feature, I'll put it. So I'll do width. Width is equal to what did I say it was? 16.667. All right, 16.66, and I want to round down so I don't run into any overflow. If I round up, it might show that nasty little bottom scroll bar like it does here. But that should work, and I'm going to press tab at the end of that, and that will of course create all of our nav buttons right there with the convenient width. Oh, I forgot to do %. Let's go ahead and add that. I just Control Z, and then there we go. Otherwise it'll assume it's pixels, and we don't want 16 pixels wide. We want 16% of the screen, the current viewing window, as our width. All right, and actually 16% of the containing div. So I'm going to make sure that this is a width of 100%. Otherwise we're going to have a width of the native, like this won't automatically, the container won't automatically span to fill the width of the document. So we have to specify that we want the container to be the width of the document by doing 100%. Yet again, this is kind of not traditional practice, but I did want to display the property of Emmet where you can put this sort of stuff. So I'll just keep it for now. If I come back to it later, if it's any pressing dire issue that needs to be fixed. And in between these, I will name these accordingly. So the first one was our home. If I had done this right after I pressed tab in Emmet, I would have actually, you know what, let's do it. I'm gonna do it right after I press tab in Emmet so I can show you guys. So I can apply my width thing here again with square brackets. Width equals 100%. Alright, I just backtracked a little bit, and now I'm going to do my Emmet code, and now I can, when I press tab, Emmet will automatically take me to the next user input. So right now it's in the first href, which will be the first link. So this one will be our home button, and we want our home button to link to our main page, which in this case is index.html. We are working on the homepage right now, and we see the name up here, index.html, index.html. And we haven't made the other pages yet, but I'll just put in theoretical names and I can go back and change them if I want to change that later. So what you'll see when I press tab, it automatically goes to the next place I need to input something. And I'm going to name this home. Tab, it goes to the next one. This next one is gaming, so I'll be tgodgames.html. That is my gaming channel. And I'll make a tgodgames.html later, but I have not made it yet, but that's what I think I'm going to name it, so I'll just put that down. Gaming, and then href for the next one, TGODtutorials, and then I'm gonna name this tutorials. That'll be the text that shows on the button. This next one will be TGOD vlogs. That'll be my vlog channel. This will be vlogging. It says vlogs over there, but I want to keep the ing, you know. And TGOD designs. Oh, I forgot to put HTML on these ones. I bet you guys already caught that. I'm just being a bozo. HTML, and I've messed up my Emmet hop to the next thing. When you click out like that, it does interrupt Emmet's little nice press tab and go to the next field. So I don't know, I was trying to demonstrate that, but I think you guys got the clue. And this one will be graphic design. And there we go. Our last one is frequently asked questions. So I'll do FAQ.html, and we'll name this one FAQ and frequently asked questions. So I'm going to stick an S at the end of that. All right, and now when I click save, you'll see updates right here. And this blank space right here shouldn't traditionally be there, except for the video takes up a native height and width. So when I right click and do inspect, it's actually a great way to see like your divs visually, I guess you would say. So of course we have our body here, and then we have our header container, and then we have our logo container, and we have our SMB bar, which doesn't have anything in it. So the container or any divs associated with that don't actually show up because there's nothing in there to take up space. So it's just kind of non-existent right now until we fill it in with some content. So if I were to go up here and put like a G, a random G, you'd see that the header container, the social media bar does take up space now, but I don't want to put any content in there quite yet because I'm not sure how I want to work out the lettering, if I want that to be an image or an actual piece of text that I put in between the anchor, start, and end tags. So I'm just going to leave it at that for now, but I did want to just kind of demonstrate that. And you can see our video does take up a native height and width of, I think it says right here, 150 and 300 pixels. So the height of 150, that looks about 150. So that's just kind of the default height and width it does take up. We can actually change that right now if we want to do width. Let's do width equals 100%. That's actually way too much. Let's do 1280 px, and then our height will be 720 px, and that is 720p native. And you'll see when I click save, or I hit save rather, it does update to reflect this. Now I'm not sure how I want to scale my video. I want it to probably scale dynamically with the size of the browser, so I'm going to leave it at its native right now, and we'll kind of consider that later. I will also kind of put the play button in later if that doesn't. I'm pretty sure a play button is kind of already given to you once you link your video source. So I don't know, I haven't really experimented with HTML5 video quite yet, but I'm sure that's how it works. And then now it's time to move on. I'm going to move relatively quickly through this one. I believe I already have some Emmet code already saved, and I'll just kind of paste it in and go over it as we go, because we are kind of getting short on time now. So anyways, let me see if I can find. Okay, I do have the footer Emmet code saved, but I'm going to just very briefly go over one of these little sections right here. This one's kind of a pain, but once you get the hang of Emmet, it'll be pretty simple. I'll just basically achieve this part right here where I have my goals and check off my goals as I achieve them on the YouTube channels. I'm basically going to make that with a table HTML element or tag, if you will. and I'm gonna have each row right here and then each column right here, and I'm gonna basically assemble a table. There's really good documentation on that on w3schools.com, and you guys can kind of look up on that. It's pretty simple. I may go over it briefly, but I might run out of time this episode. So anyways, I'm just going to do the about section right here. So I'm going to do a new div, which is going to have the class of, well, we got to contain this, right? It's an about section, but it has a heading and then also has content. So I got to contain those two things together. So we're going to do a section container, right? And I can actually knock out all these at once, right? So this is a section container. Well, this is also a section container right here. This is also a section container, just like this one is. And so is this one, right? Because it has the same heading and content. This has stuff in the middle, right? But we can go ahead and input that later after we do the Emmet code. So we can basically knock out all three of these sections in one just by doing a ×3 at the end of this. So anyways, I'm gonna do this because I gotta contain all this to do my ×3, right? We have our ×3, but we're not done. There's stuff that goes inside of here, right? So I'm gonna continue on the inside. So we have a div with the class of section container, which is going to be this right here. It's going to be contained. Inside of that, well, we have our heading. So I'm going to do an h1 with the class of section header, right? And I'm going to do a plus because right below it, it's not contained within this, but right below this h1, we have our paragraph. So I'm going to do a p, and we do have a plus in between these two because they are side by side. They're not nested within each other. This paragraph is not nested within this h1, rather it is right below it or on the same hierarchy. So I'm going to do p dot section, I guess you would say section content. Right there, section content. And now when I press enter, or tab rather, Emmet will go ahead and do a div with the section with the class section container, and inside of that div it's going to put an h1 with the class of section header and a p right below it that has the class of section content, and it's going to make three of those because I did ×3. So when I press tab, it did exactly that, and now I can go ahead and start filling it in. So our first header is called about, right? And it's going to take me right down here. I'm just going to type in lorem, and oop, does that not work? I'm pretty sure it does work. I'm going to type in, let me type it again, lorem, and press tab, and that'll Emmet will automatically fill in some lorem ipsum default text, which is really great if you want to visualize your website and go ahead and replace that text later. It's just kind of a place filler. Alright, so let's go to our next section, and this one's going to be called goals. Such goals. And inside that I'm going to do some more lorem because I do not want to type anything in quite yet. I just kind of want some placeholder text because I don't want to think. I just want to design and go for it. I can go ahead and fill in some legitimate about text later, but for right now, lorem ipsum is my about. If you want to know about me, that is me. And support and connect. Right there is going to be the title of the third one, and right below we do have some lorem or some text, and there we go. And I really thought this was kind of cool because it generates little different snippets of lorem each time. It's not just the same one copy and pasted, but which I think is awesome. And when I go ahead and click save, live reload will automatically fill that in. As you can see, we have a very nice framework here. Very nice framework, and I'm gonna go ahead and fill in the table and stuff off camera, and I'll go ahead and showcase that in the beginning of the next episode because I do want to move through to the footer to kind of get everything done in this episode. So let's go ahead and do that. I do have some footer Emmet shortcode already made, and I'm going to go ahead and display that right here. So I'm going to hit enter or return, and I'm going to put our footer, or this stuff right here, I'm going to put that right after my last div and right before, actually I'm going to put it after my body ends because this is no longer considered my body, right? I'm putting the footer after my body. Sorry for that slip up right there. And I'm going to go ahead and place it in my Emmet text, and I'm going to go over this so you guys fully understand what's going on here. So basically, I'm going to make a footer tag. That is the actual name of the tag. You can do footer. That is a legitimate tag, so that's what that is. And inside of that footer tag, I'm going to put a div, which is a footer wrapper. So I'm going to put a div, which is a footer wrapper, which is going to go around here. And inside of that footer wrapper, I'm going to do a footer logo wrapper. So that's going to be a wrapper div that is going to go around our logo. And then we have inside of that wrapper an anchor, which is our footer logo text right here. So that is our anchor right here. And I believe I can actually put content inside of this anchor by doing curly brackets right here and then putting in what I want to go inside the anchor. So I want the anchor to have text inside of it that says TGODNetwork, and I believe that's how you do it. We'll find out soon enough. So that'll fill that in for us already. And inside of that, and then we have, okay, so we have all of this. This should really be a plus, come to think of it. So we're additionally doing this stuff. That's just a little mistake, so we're learning stuff. So this will be right next to it. Right next to it, we'll have a footer legal wrapper. So this will be our legal stuff. And inside of that wrapper div, we'll have a paragraph, which will have all of our legal text right here. And then to the side of that, I don't know why I keep doing side carets like that. I must have been doing something crazy. And then to the side of that, we want a div.footer footer contact wrapper. So this can be a div that is wrapping around our contact info. And of course, inside of that, we do have a paragraph with our contact text, so people can contact me if need be. So that is all of this shenanigans. I think I have like an extra, where's this extra bracket coming from? I don't know what that extra bracket was. I think everything's kind of closed. I'm just kind of checking everything by clicking on it and seeing where it ends. Actually, I think that's where it ended. But, all right, yeah, this final bracket right here was associated with this one right here. Okay, so that's everything closed. And now when I press tab, I'm just going to copy this just in case things go bad. I believe these curly brackets will put a content inside of there. Yeah, it does. So you see the curly brackets, just put it inside of the tag like that. And as you can see, Emmet has filled everything out for us. We do have our footer with the class footer wrapper right there. And you know, everything I just kind of talked about, and I just filled it in nice and clean. I'm going to go ahead and put in some legal text placeholder. Of course, our traditional lorem. And of course, our contact is going to be lorem as well. And as we're going to go ahead and click save here, we'll see that everything fills in, and it is not formatted because we have not yet touched any of the CSS, which I would love to get into with the next tutorial. But that is all the HTML. It's pretty simple. There's only a few things you need to know about HTML, and then after that, you're pretty much just free to go. It's very basic. All you need to know is the tags and how to arrange everything. Wrap your stuff that is associated with each other. Like if there's common elements like buttons like this, wrap them in divs so that you can manipulate them as one object. Because if you move the div, all the things inside the div move with it. So it's kind of just like putting everything in a basket. Like if you have a whole bunch of balls, you don't want to like kind of try to stack the balls individually. Just put them in a bucket and then you can move them around, whatever. I think that's kind of a good analogy I've learned to use with that. But that is pretty much that. Hopefully this was visual enough for you guys. I know I'm kind of a visual learner, but you know, I know many of you guys are different in your learning style, so hopefully it's kind of set up where I showed you the plan on one screen and the website in another, and with the code on the other side. And hopefully Emmet wasn't too kind of mind-boggling for you guys. It's very easy to understand once you get the flow of it, so I do encourage you guys to work at it if you are still a little bit lost on the Emmet stuff. But overall, very simple, very intuitive. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you guys for watching. I upload tutorials here every Tuesday, so I would love to have you guys return next Tuesday. I do a whole bunch of tutorials. I do lots of stuff on the Adobe suite, so Adobe Photoshop, Adobe After Effects, Premiere Pro, editors, compositors, photo editing, all that sort of stuff here as well. I'm basically just trying to help you guys become a more well-versed content creator here on YouTube, and how to innovate your work and make it more efficient to save you lots of time. I'm just basically here teaching you guys every week how to innovate your work and stuff. So if you are interested in that, you can actually sign up to receive text message notifications when I upload a new tutorial, and you'll actually be getting access to these a whole day early if you sign up here. You can click the link on the screen to be taken to a website to sign up, or you can text the code seen right down below on your phone to the number provided, and that'll sign you up to get text message links every time I upload a new video. Of course, you can subscribe if you're just a regular old YouTube junkie and you want to be notified here on YouTube when I upload new tutorials. If you want to do both those, it's kind of just doubly sure that you don't miss a new tutorial, and it's a great way to help out because you'll never miss a tutorial, and it's a great way to be here and be part of the community and stuff like that. All my web development tutorials are linked up in the top right with my series playlist. If you just want to click play and lean back and learn, it'll take care of all the moving to the next video for you, so you don't have to worry about clicking to the next one. And of course, all my social media is linked down below. I'm trying to get to 5,000 followers on Twitter by the end of this upcoming summer, and I would love your guys' support with that. I do motivational quotes every day, and I update about my my real life. I'm a real person. Update about my real life, what's going on with me, school stuff, YouTube stuff. It's all there. So that is a great way to kind of come to a better understanding of me, and we can kind of interact. If you tweet me, I'll tweet back, all that sort of stuff. But that's pretty much it. That is my spiel. Hopefully you guys found something from this tutorial. Hopefully it was informational. If you have anything to add to the discussion, you can do it down in the comment section below. If there was anything wrong with this tutorial that you think that you can add to, of course, feel free to let me know or others know down in the comment section. But that is my time. Thank you guys for tuning in. I will see you next Tuesday for another tutorial, and as always, I wish you guys the best, and yeah, as always, keep creating. Peace.